The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. I sat in the hospital waiting room, watching droplets race down the window, each one blurring into the next until I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. My life felt exactly like that, formless, hopeless, dissolving into something I no longer recognized. My brother lay in the ICU 2 floors above, machines breathing for him because his lungs had forgotten how. The drunk driver who hit him walked away with scratches. Tommy got a fractured skull, collapsed lung, and a medical bill that made my vision swim every time I looked at it. $375,000 for the surgeries, for the months of rehabilitation he'd need, for a chance at walking again. I was 32 years old, a middle school art teacher. I made $38,000 a year. I'd already sold my car, borrowed against my tiny retirement account, and maxed out every credit card I owned. It wasn't even close to enough. "Miss Sullivan?" A man in an expensive suit appeared in front of me. He looked out of place among the tired families and worn furniture. "I'm Richard Chen. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Harrison Blackwell." The name meant nothing to me. I stared at him, confused. "Mr. Blackwell owns Quantum Systems. He's been following your brother's case. He'd like to help." Hope fluttered in my chest, dangerous and desperate. "Help how?" "He'll cover all of your brother's medical expenses. Surgery, rehabilitation, everything. In exchange, he asks only one thing." Richard Chen pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "He'd like you to marry him." I actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. That's insane. Why would a tech billionaire want to marry a broke art teacher? "Mr. Blackwell is terminally ill. He has perhaps 6 months. He's spent his life building his company, and now he's dying alone. He wants companionship for whatever time he has left. Nothing more. When he passes, you'll be free to move on with your life, and your brother will have the care he needs." "This is crazy," I whispered. But I was already thinking about Tommy, about the doctors saying they couldn't wait much longer, about time running out. "Think about it," Richard said, handing me the envelope. "You have until tomorrow morning." That night, I sat beside Tommy's bed. He was still unconscious, his face so pale against the white hospital sheets that he looked like he was already disappearing. He was 28. He was supposed to get married next year. His fiancée, Sarah, had been coming every day, sitting in the same chair I occupied now, holding his hand and crying. "What do I do?" I asked him, even though he couldn't hear me, even though I already knew what I had to do. The wedding took place in a lawyer's office. No flowers, no music, no guests except Richard Chen and Harrison's elderly housekeeper, Mrs. Hartley. Harrison sat in a wheelchair, which shocked me. The terminal illness, I'd assumed, was cancer or something similar. I hadn't expected to see him so physically diminished already. He was 53 but looked older, his face drawn and gray. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hands shook slightly as he signed the marriage certificate. "Thank you," he said quietly when it was done. His voice was rough, like speaking hurt. "I know this isn't what you wanted." "You're saving my brother's life," I replied. "Thank you." We drove to his house, a sprawling estate an hour north of the city. The house was beautiful in a cold way. All glass and steel and expensive art that probably cost more than I'd make in my lifetime. But it felt empty, lonely. "Your room is on the 2nd floor, Harrison said. He didn't look at me. "Mine is on the 1st. I don't go upstairs much anymore. Too many steps. Mrs. Hartley will show you around. If you need anything, just ask her." "What about meals?" I asked. "Do we eat together?" "If you'd like. Or not. Whatever makes you comfortable." He wheeled himself toward a hallway. "I work most days. You won't see me much." He disappeared before I could respond. Mrs. Hartley was 70 if she was a day, with kind eyes and flour on her apron. "Don't mind him, dear," she said, taking my arm gently. "He's not used to people. Come, I'll make you tea." The kitchen was warm, a contrast to the rest of the house. It smelled like bread and vanilla. Mrs. Hartley moved around with the ease of someone who'd been here forever. "How long have you worked for him?" I asked. 32 years. I watched that boy grow up, brilliant mind, kind heart, but so alone. His parents died when he was 19. Car accident. He threw himself into building the company. Never stopped long enough to build a life. She poured tea into delicate china cups. This illness has been hard on him. He's scared, I think, though he'd never admit it. What kind of illness is it? Mrs. Hartley's face clouded. Heart condition. Cardiomyopathy, the doctors called it. They said 6 months. That was 5 months ago. 5 months. So I'd arrived near the end. The first 2 weeks were strange. I barely saw Harrison. He spent his days in his study, only emerging for brief meals that we ate in silence. He looked worse each day. More tired. More gray. Sometimes I'd hear him coughing at night, harsh sounds that echoed through the empty house. I visited Tommy every day. The surgery had been successful. He was awake now, starting the long road to recovery. Sarah never left his side. "How's married life?" Tommy joked, his voice still weak. "Quiet," I said. "This guy treating you okay?" He barely speaks to me. "It's fine. It's just temporary." But something was bothering me. Harrison was sick, clearly, but something felt off. The way he'd forget to take his medications, the way he'd refuse to see his doctors. Richard Chen would come by with appointment reminders, and Harrison would cancel them. "He's always been stubborn about doctors," Mrs. Hartley said when I mentioned it. "Even as a boy, one night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and heard sounds from Harrison's study. Grunting, a crash. I ran to the door. Harrison was on the floor, his wheelchair tipped beside him. He was trying to reach his desk, clearly in pain. "Oh my God!" I rushed to him. "What happened?" "Don't," he gasped. "Just help me up." I got my arms under his shoulders. He was heavier than he looked, but I managed to get him into his chair. His face was covered in sweat. "I'm calling 911, I said. "No." His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Please, no hospitals. I just need my medication. Top drawer, the blue bottle." I found it and handed it to him. He took 2 pills with shaking hands. "Why won't you go to the hospital?" I demanded. "Because they can't help me." His voice was flat. "All they do is run tests and make promises they can't keep. I'd rather spend whatever time I have left here than hooked up to machines." I understood that, but I also understood something else. "You're getting worse faster than they predicted, aren't you?" He looked at me then. Really looked at me. For the first time since we'd met. "Yes." "How long do you think you have?" "A month. Maybe less." Something in my chest cracked. This man was a stranger. I'd married him for money, but sitting there on the floor of his study at 2 a.m, watching him struggle to breathe, I felt something I hadn't expected. Compassion. Maybe more than compassion. "Let me help you to bed," I said softly. After that night, things changed. Harrison started joining me for breakfast. We'd talk, small things at first, the weather, books we'd read, but gradually, deeper things. He told me about his parents, about building quantum systems from nothing, about the loneliness of success. I told him about teaching, about Tommy and Sarah, about my dreams of having my own art studio someday. "Why did you give that up?" he asked. I didn't. I just postponed it. Life got in the way. "Life always gets in the way if you let it," he said. "After I'm gone, use whatever money you need to open that studio." "Harrison, I can't." "You can, you will. Promise me." I promised. We fell into a routine. I'd read to him in the evenings. He'd tell me about his day, the business challenges he was trying to solve even though he was dying. Sometimes we'd sit in silence, watching the sunset through the massive windows, and it felt comfortable. Natural. Mrs. Hartley watched us with approval. "You're good for him," she told me. He's smiling again. But he was also getting weaker. By the 4th month, he couldn't hide it anymore. The coughing fits lasted longer. He stopped working. He slept more. And yet, something nagged at me. A detail I couldn't place. It started when I found him in the bathroom one morning. Pills scattered across the counter. "What are all these?" I asked. "Medications. For the heart condition." I picked one up and read the label. Then another. Then another. "Harrison, these are all from different doctors, different prescriptions. Some of these interact badly with each other. The doctors don't coordinate," he said dismissively. But that didn't make sense. A man with his resources would have the best medical team, completely coordinated. I looked at the dates. The bottles were all recent, all prescribed within the last few months. I started paying attention. The way Richard Chen would bring Harrison vitamins every morning, the way Harrison would take them without question, the way he'd get worse shortly after. The way Richard always insisted Harrison skip his doctor's appointments. "Mrs. Hartley," I asked one afternoon while she was gardening, "does Richard handle all of Harrison's medical care?" "Oh, yes. He's been wonderful, taking care of everything since Harrison got sick. Such a loyal assistant. Been with him for 10 years. 10 years. And in line to inherit a significant portion of the company if Harrison died." I felt cold. That night, I waited until Harrison took his vitamins from Richard. Then I waited until he fell asleep, troubled by another coughing fit. I took the bottle Richard had left and drove to the 24-hour pharmacy. "I need to speak to a pharmacist," I told the clerk. The pharmacist was a tired woman named Linda. She looked at the pills, looked at the label, and frowned. "This isn't right," she said. "This medication isn't for heart conditions. It's a blood thinner, a strong one, and at this dosage, with this frequency," she met my eyes. "If someone with a heart condition took these long-term, it would slowly deteriorate their cardiovascular system, make them weaker, make it look like their condition was worsening naturally." My hands shook. Could it kill them? Over several months? Absolutely. I barely made it home. I found Mrs. Hartley still up, reading in the kitchen. "We need to call the police," I said. Now, Mrs. Hartley listened to everything. Her face went pale. "Richard? But he's been like family. He's been poisoning Harrison. We need to get him to a hospital and get him tested." We called 911. The police came. Harrison was confused, weak, but alive. They took blood samples at the hospital, tested all his medications, found arsenic, found overdoses of blood thinners, found evidence of systematic poisoning over 5 months. Richard Chen was arrested at his apartment. They found more poison, found forged medical records, found emails to another tech CEO discussing buying quantum systems after Harrison's death. Harrison spent 2 weeks in the hospital. As the poison cleared his system, he got stronger. Color returned to his face, his hands stopped shaking. "There's no terminal heart condition," the doctor told us. "He has a mild arrhythmia, easily manageable with proper medication. But the poison damage was severe. He's lucky to be alive." Harrison stared at me from his hospital bed. "You saved my life." "Mrs. Hartley helped," I said. "No. You. You paid attention. You cared enough to question things." His eyes were wet. "Margaret, I know our marriage was a business arrangement, but these months with you have been the happiest of my life, even when I thought I was dying. Especially then, because you made me feel less alone." I took his hand. "You make me feel less alone too. When I'm fully recovered, if you want a divorce, I'll give you whatever you want. The money for Tommy's care, money for your studio, whatever you need. But if you wanted to stay," he swallowed hard, "if you wanted to try making this real, I would like that very much." I thought about the past 4 months, the quiet breakfasts, the evening conversations, the way my heart had started beating faster when he smiled, the way I'd fallen asleep thinking about him, the terror I'd felt when I thought he was dying. "I'd like that too," I whispered. The legal proceedings took months. Richard Chen went to prison for attempted murder and fraud. Harrison recovered slowly but completely. Tommy finished his rehabilitation and married Sarah in a beautiful ceremony where Harrison and I stood beside them, our own rings now symbols of something real. Mrs. Hartley cried throughout the whole wedding. "I prayed for this," she told me, "for you both to find each other." Harrison sold quantum systems, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. "I spent my whole life building it," he said. "Now I want to spend my life living." We used the money to start a foundation, medical care for accident victims without insurance. It was my idea, born from those desperate days in Tommy's hospital room. Harrison loved it. "This matters," he said, "more than any code I ever wrote." We bought a house by the ocean, smaller than the estate, warmer. It had a studio for me with north-facing windows. I painted while Harrison worked on foundation projects. Sometimes he'd come sit with me, just watching, and I'd feel so grateful for every ordinary moment we shared. One evening, a year and a half after our wedding, We sat on the beach watching the sunset.